Ron, can someone start housekeeping?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Good morning, everybody. Happy September. I can't believe fall is upon us, but here we are. All right, we'll start the review of our agenda items for today. We'll start with agenda item 1, which is review of the upcoming board meeting agenda. When we start, flip to page 9, where we can go start with our staff presentation. And before I get underway on this, just want to point out that we do have an item that was added after admin. That's item number 12, and John will be covering that when we go through review. So just wanted to make a note that that's a new item. But yes, so back on page 9, staff presentation. So we have here is item number 30, and that's the update on a draft cooperative agreement between South Coast AQMD and the ports. And I'd like Ian to take that.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So this is a follow-up to an item that we brought to Mobile Source Committee just this last Friday. And this is on the work that we've been doing with the ports over the last several weeks, following governing board direction at the August meeting to pursue a potential cooperative agreement with the ports. And as we reported on Friday, we made a lot of really good progress on that. And so we'll be reporting on that in this item, but then just a few follow-up items as well. So just the quick summary of where we are right now. We released an updated draft agreement early last week. So that's on our website now. That's been out for about a week. And the scope of that agreement really is virtually identical to what was in proposed rule 2304. So it's focusing on charging and fueling infrastructure for all sources at the ports, and it provides a schedule for plans to be developed for that infrastructure and then for implementation. The draft agreement, updated draft agreement, also includes enforceability provisions that we were happy to see that the ports are willing to agree on that. And has a mechanism for how to enforce, and then for any funds that we get from that, it allows our board discretion to spend those fees, and a procedure to deal with Tidelands Trust for the ports. What we do know is that this is still relatively fresh, and so we know that additional public process is needed. We are scheduling a public meeting to get some more feedback on this. That would be on October 15th in the evening. We'll be sending out a note on that today, an announcement on that. That'll make it onto our calendar on the website as well. That'll be a hybrid meeting, both in person and available via Zoom. We're also hoping to get written comments to us by October 22nd. If there are comments that come in from any stakeholders and the negotiating parties can agree to it, then, we're more than happy to update this before this item would go to the board for their consideration in November. That was the motion that was put forward by Mobile Source Committee on Friday. There are additional measures that were originally put forward by the ports back in the draft they gave us in July, and we're looking to continue those discussions largely after November. I mean, there can be some discussion before as well, but we know that that's going to take some more time. And so we're looking for sometime in spring next year. I think what we've seen is that there really is an eagerness to get onto those discussions. But right now, we're really focusing on this first part where there is agreement. With that, I think I can conclude, and then we're available for any questions.
Questions for Ian? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to the next item, item 31, and that's a permitting enhancement program status update. And I'll turn that over to Jason Aspel.
Good morning, everyone. This is going to be our fourth update on the permitting enhancement program. Will be a brief update on our staffing levels and production, both of which are doing really well. We will revisit where we are with the certified permitting professional program. We've got lots of good feedback from the public and industry on that item. And then the big item on this one is going to be touching what we've been working on in the background for modernization. We've been working a lot with our IM department on our new permitting platform. So we will be doing a demonstration of that, of what we've been developing. Answer any questions on that?
Deborah, go ahead.
Hi, just a real quick question. Are you expecting any motion out of this update, or is it simply informational in nature?
This will be informational. However, it will indicate maybe a future board letter that will be coming soon.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Okay. We'll move on to our public hearing item. This is on our proposed amended Rule 301, and I'll turn that over to Kalam.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. To start with a little bit of background, the state law requires community air monitoring via refineries. And in South Coast, these requirements are implemented through Rule 1180, 1180.1, the refinery monitoring rules. In addition, Rule 301 establishes the fee schedules for the operating and maintenance fees for these community air monitoring stations. 301 also requires a fee reassessment every 3 years to ensure proper cost recovery for this program. And the most recent reassessment was completed in late 2024. And that proposal was presented in spring of this year to the public as part of the annual budget. However, at that time, there were some questions raised, and that proposal was carved out from the main budget package to allow for more time to work with stakeholders. In the last few months, we've worked closely with stakeholders, multiple meetings with them, and including a site visit at a community air monitoring station. We had some really good discussion, and the fee proposal has been updated to reflect a 12.4% fee increase. And that will provide proper cost recovery for this monitoring program required under state law. At this point, we're not aware of any key remaining issues, and this action will result in additional revenue to be recognized in the budget. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Kalam on that item? All right. Now let's move on to flip to page 3, where we'll start going through our the rest of the agenda of the board. We'll start off with item number 2. This is a setting hearing on proposed amended rule 1107, and I'll turn it over to Mike Morris.
Morning, everybody. So 1107 is our regulation for VOC on metal coatings. The amendment is being proposed to address 2 exempt solvents, perichlorobenzo trifluoride and tertiary butyl acetate, which are exempt solvents, but have recently been found to be carcinogenic. So our proposal is to prohibit those. We're including a phase-out schedule so that people who use these coatings will be able to transition to coatings that don't contain them over a period of time. We don't want to disrupt their businesses. We've been working closely with the manufacturers and users to address some key issues over the last few weeks. Those have been taken care of, and at this point, we're not aware of any key issues.
Any questions for Mike?
Wasn't there originally some concern there wasn't a substitute or something that other materials didn't perform as well, or?
So that is the concern at this point, that they're going to have to go through reformulation, do extensive coating testing to make sure that they perform the same way. And so we provided them 5 years to do those types of testing and reformulation activities.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, let's flip to page 4. We'll do our next set hearing. It's for our proposed amended rule 1469, and I'll turn it over to Kalam.
Morning again. Rule 1469 addresses toxic emissions, and it hexagon chromium, one of the worst air toxics, and it addresses emissions from the operations of chromium electroplating. Typically, our local rule is at least as stringent as state and federal regulations. However, in 2023, ARB, our state sister agency, has amended its state regulation to introduce more stringent requirements for this emission source category, including phase out for the use of hexagon chromium in these operations, as well as lower emissions limits and more frequent source testing requirements. And because the state law requires our local rule to be as stringent as the state regulation, we're amending Rule 1469 to incorporate the more stringent requirements required under this law. And through the rulemaking process, we work very closely with our stakeholders, and we received comments that they want more clarifications in terms of applicability, specifically for reporting requirements and storage requirements. So we're planning to provide more clarifications in our rule language and staff report, as well as more examples. And we're not aware of any key remaining issues.
Questions for Kalam on this item? All right. Seeing none, let's move on to item number 3. And I believe actually the next 5 items are for Aaron. So Aaron, maybe.
So the first item is to issue a program announcement under the Proposition 1B program. So this program started in 2008 under bond funding, and since then we've been awarded over $480 million for this program. We have around approximately $50 million left in projects that have fallen through. The Air Resources Board recently changed the criteria for cargo handling equipment for transport refrigeration units. They upped the incentive amounts for those. So this program announcement is going to be specifically for cargo handling equipment and TRU units. To hopefully spend the remaining $50 million, approximately $50 million that we have left under Proposition 1B. I'll pause with any questions on that item.
I have a question. I believe most of the problems we have with ozone are based on the emissions along the west side of LA County. That's probably the majority is around there. Any thought about focusing projects like that on the west side, the port and other areas to perhaps reduce the impact on the inland area? That's a tough question, huh?
Well,
I don't know if Sarah was chiming in here, but ozone, as you know, is formed in the atmosphere, so emissions accumulate also, and it's not just also ozone, it's particulate matter. So primary and direct particulate matter is another.
The focus for many, many years has been the east end of the basin going after LA County for creating the smog that rolls in, and it's pretty accurate. That's my point. I mean, I went through I'm a data guy. I went through the major facilities. I looked at 2018 of all places, and around 70% of the emissions, NOx emissions, and VOC emissions for the majors were along the west coast. Just a fact. I dig into data.
I will say that we do get higher PM levels into closer to LA, and NOx is key for the secondary formation of PM. And so that is a very important consideration for us as well.
But in San Bernardino, which half of us here represent, they have the worst air quality in basically.
They have the highest levels of ozone.
By far.
But I think if you look at the source, we all recognize that nearly 80% of it comes from mobile sources. And this program is focused on mobile sources. So where those mobile sources go, I think, is where we want to have those investments. Most of the mobile sources are traveling east to all the warehouses and then throughout the state. So I think the focus is really where it needs to be, on those goods movement sectors. And anything we can do to continue to get cleaner trucks is going to be a real advantage for us.
Any other questions on that item?
I have a quick question. Is there any language or provisions in this item that allows for some of these funds to go to small businesses out there that we know are struggling to move into the zero emission area, but still need some business that are?
Yeah, they would definitely be eligible for this, if they have this type of equipment in their fleets. And then also to note that this program, once it's released, we do have Invest Clean Up right now, and these two programs can be stacked, so the incentives can be added to each other.
Thank you.
I'll move on to item number 4. This item is to issue 2 contracts, one with Park Boat and one with Bay Delta. We had a previous project with Crowley Marine, which operates tugboats in the San Pedro and Big Ports. They were going to build a basically hybrid tugboat, operates mostly on zero emission, large part, but has diesel backup engines for protection. They decided not to proceed with that project for business purposes. So we received a proposal from Bay Delta, which is going to convert a tugboat to hybrid operation. So battery packs and still have the diesel engines as part of this. And then Arc Boat will be installing the charging infrastructure for this boat, this tugboat, at the Alta Sea terminal down in Port of Los Angeles. And so this is kind of a continuation of the previous project, but with different implementing these technologies. So I'll pause on this.
Must be big darn batteries.
Yeah, there's a lot of horsepower in these tugboats. You
Like
can
that's
imagine.
Well, electric has a lot of low end torque, so.
Right. No other questions on that item. I'll move to number 5. This is for the Reflection Right program. So the Reflection Right program, we have several contractors that support the program, helping applicants proceed with all the information they have to provide under this program, and just information on how you go purchase your vehicle and just to get through the whole process. So the last time we issued RFPs for the contractor support for this program was 2022. So this is to issue an RFP for the next set of contractors. So the contractors that we currently have in place, then we apply if they're interested. And the second part of this board letter is to just allow us to continue to fund the existing contractors with $400,000 until we get the new or renewed contracts in place under this process. You can all pause there with any questions.
What's the max award under this program? Because it used to be like 9 grand.
12,500 was upped a year ago, just over a year ago.
So it's how much?
12,500.
Oh, okay. You can find a used Prius or Leaf for like way less than that, so it's awesome.
Let's see any other questions on that one before we move on? Move on to what is this, number 6? So these are in-year funds that we received from the state, largely for overburdened communities, part of the 8617 program. This just allows us to recognize the funds, and we will go back to the resources board later date with spending plan. And then we have on item number 7, admin items. This is kind of a new thing. Item that we have to look for contracts or other purposes. 2 items in this board letter essentially are to reissue a contract with the Arrowhead Regional Medical Clinic in the County of San Bernardino for the development of 2 zero-emission breathmobiles to replace the existing breathmobiles. We had an EPA extension and later than the contract term. And then lastly is to issue a contract or have a contract name change for Cummins. 2 companies, TransPower was acquired by Meritor, and it was then acquired by Cummins. And this is for some of the first zero-emission battery electric refuse trucks that were built. And Cummins would like to continue to operate these refuse trucks for some additional demonstrations. And I think that covers all my items.
Thank you for that marathon session, Eric.
Do we know what the range on the breathmobile is? As former San Bernardino County person, being largest county in the lower 48, Needles is a long ways away.
Well, these breathmobiles are not going to be able to go in the entire county, San Bernardino, so.
You couldn't do that on 1 tank of gas anyway.
I think in our scoping design of these, it was 80 miles. So it's going to be limited to where these service areas are. So they still will have some of that airspace, internal combustion engine breathmobiles in place.
Okay, we are on page 6 of the agenda, and we're up to item number 8, and I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Lowe.
All right, thank you, Sarah. So by comparison to Aaron's marathon, mine will be a fast sprint. So this is a straightforward item to purchase air monitoring and laboratory equipment for an estimated amount of $215,000. This has already been included in the annual budget. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Jason? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to next 2 items, 9 and 10. Those are Lisa's.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So the first item is for our contracts from our federal legislative representation. They expire on January 14th of 2026. So this item is to approve a 1-year extension for Commission Associates, Cassidy and Associates, and the Carmen Group. And that's pretty much that item. The next item is similarly to extend the contracts for our state representation. Those contracts expire on December 31st of 2025. And so it'd be a 1-year extension for Gonzalez and Sons and Buckley Government Affairs. Happy to take any questions on those 2 items.
Okay, questions for Lisa? All right, we're rolling right along. So flip the page to page 7. We have items 11 and 12, and those are John's.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Item number 11 is to extend the current contract for 2 years for landscape and tree maintenance services here at our Diamond Bar headquarters and to approve funding for the extension. There are no questions. Item number 12 is to approve an agreement for additional monthly contribution amount towards health insurance premiums for the professional unit employees. This is to help cover cost increases for 2026 insurance rates. The amount is the same as what the board approved for Teamsters and non-represented employees at their September 5th meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for John? All right, seeing none, move on to item number 13, and I'm going to ask Scott to provide an overview of that.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Epstein. I'm a planning and rules manager in the planning division. So the Coachella Valley suffers from high levels of wind-blown dust and as a result of that, high levels of PM10. So we're presenting to the board a strategy for understanding the key sources of PM10 with hopes to ultimately mitigate that PM10. And I can take any questions.
Andy,
I have a random comment. I started with the Desert Sun in Palm Springs just shy of 30 years ago. And I remember the first time I saw a headline about PM10 30 years ago. It's like, what's PM10? That's how long it's been a problem in the Coachella Valley. So
it's been a problem even longer than that.
longer than that. Back to 50 million years ago.
And on that note, any other questions for Scott? All right, let's move on. Flip the page to page number 8. We have item number 14. These are just agreements approved by MSRC. Erin, anything to add on that?
Just two things quick. MSRC's brought as part of their previous work program focused on charging infrastructure, largely for trucks. So they have a $3 million agreement with Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator to install charging infrastructure around the Port of Los Angeles. They just received another $3 million from LA Metro, which will then pass through MSRC to Lacey to help support those charging infrastructure sites. And I think the other note on this is that they're developing, MSRC is developing their next program work code program for 3 years. And one of the items before them last week was Penske with their charging sites, and 5 of those sites, or 6 of those sites, not proceeding because of lack of available power. So the MSRC committee last week directed MSRC staff and the technical advisory committee to develop a program and come back to them next November that will focus on helping with grid capacity delays. So these would be like microgrids, on-site power generation, battery storage, things like that. So
Questions for Erin? Okay, moving on, items 15 through 20. These are information only, receive and file items. Any questions on these? Okay, and then we'll flip the page. We have items 21 through 28. These are reports for committee. Any questions on these?
Just since it's ledge, SB 34 is on the governor's desk.
That is our understanding.
Was that a question?
No,
Oh, sorry.
ledge was a good excuse to update.
Remind us. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our review of the board agenda. So that's our item number 1. That's it. So any, do we have any public comments on item number 1? Not seeing any hands raised. Move on to item number 2 of our agenda. Any other business?
I went to, what's the name of the new charging facility in Colton, Green Lane?
Oh,
Anyway, I went to the open house or ribbon cutting or whatever it was, but anyway, they got pulled through for 18 wheelers and a whole bunch of other charging stations. And it's all designed so they can quickly and easily upgrade it to 1 megawatt chargers when those come available. And they said it was way easier to do because they were dealing with Colton Utility instead of Edison. But anyway, it was very cool.
Very good.
Obviously lying.
Nice. All right. Moving on, general public comments. I'm not seeing any hands raised at this point. Okay, that concludes our meeting. We'll adjourn and I'll see you guys at board meeting next week.
Question.